Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I know it's a lecture meeting, so I'm gonna basically talk about what's happening today in today's marketplace, and then I want to talk a little bit about some of the ledge stuff that you'll see going on this year affecting property tax. First off, you all know the market's been declining. It's actually been declining now, 2007, 2008, and it looks like it's going into 2009, starting to go down. Because of that, 2 years ago, we lowered. Two years ago, we lowered 55,000 properties. Now, how many here are familiar with Prop 13? Okay, everybody. How about Prop 8? Proposition 8. I'm not talking about the one that was on the ballot. Proposition 8 that was passed in 1978, 6 months after Prop 13. How many are familiar with that? Okay. Very little. I'm going to bring up a slide right now that will help me explain that. All right. What Proposition 8 did, after Prop 13 was passed, said that if a property ever declines below the factored base year for Prop 13, the assessor can lower that value to the market value as of lien date. Today, the lien date is January 1 of each year. Back then, it used to be April 1st, but now it's been changed about 8-10 years ago to January 1. So January 1 is the date that we have to revalue properties if they drop below that factored base year value. That's why when they get their bill in October of each year, they're saying, well, the value on my bill is not what it is today, and that's true. It's not. Their property taxes are not based on the current, when they get their bill, it's based on January 1 of each year. So they're really paying in arrears as far as what the value is. So this is a schematic that kind of shows that situation. The black line being the Prop 13 value of a property. This one looks like it was probably purchased in 2000. The red line is the value each year for property tax purposes. And the yellow line would be the market value. So as long as the market value is staying above the factored base value, the assessment stays on its Prop 13 line. Once the market drops below, then in January of that year we lower it. So in this case, it came down about $5,000, so we lowered it. The next year it stayed stable, so we just kept it the same. The following year it went up, and the following year after that went up until market value crosses that factored baseline, and then it goes back on that factored baseline, the Prop 13 factored baseline. And that's essentially how Prop 13 works, Prop 8, excuse me, works. So it allows us each January to look at those properties. 2 years ago, and for January of 2007, we lowered about 55,000 properties in our county. And we have about 400,000, under 400,000 residential properties. This last year, we lowered over 90,000 properties. And I'm looking for January of this year, we're probably going to be in the 120,000 or more range. This is not unprecedented, and I'll show you, actually it's further down. Back in 2000, in the 1990s, you may remember, we had, in the mid-90s, we did the same thing. We went through this cycle where we had about 5 years of decline, and then it came back up. Back then, we had about 360,000 properties in our county, and we were up to 120,000 Prop 8s. So we're going to be in that same territory this time, only it's a smaller percentage of the whole. Back then it was 1 in every 3. However, if this thing continues, we'll probably be above that. But this is a little deeper than the one in the 90s, because we are looking back in about 1990, I don't have a slide here that shows. Okay, this is the annual growth. We actually show a slight positive in about 1995, 96. But really, in the real property alone, it was actually a slight negative that year. But that was the first year since Prop 13 that we had a slight negative in the road growth. This next year, I'm anticipating something over 5% negative growth. So that means revenue to schools, to the counties, to the city, to the counties, to the cities, to special districts are going to be declining. All of the people on those boards are going to be looking at how they can reduce their level of spending because there's going to be less revenue, no doubt about it. It's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to maybe 7%. But it's not much more than 7%. But it's definitely going to be over 5%. Is what we're seeing right now. This last year, and I was just mentioning that we had 23 subdivisions that was filed with our county. A normal year is more like 150, somewhere 140, 150 subdivisions in a year. This last year we had 23. I'm anticipating we won't have much more than that in 2009. There's not very many builders right now out there willing to risk putting paper lots or putting infrastructure into lots for housing. The good thing is that's going to help sell the inventory that's out there right now. I just did a study, had my staff do a study since the end of the year on foreclosures. How many foreclosures do you think we had in Sacramento County last year?
16,000.
16,000. We actually had 18,000, just under 18,500 last year. 3 years ago, we had just a little around 1,200, a little less than 1,200. So, excuse me, I said 1,200, 120. About 10 a month. 10 a month in a good economy is about right. Yes, 2005. I actually had the numbers for those years. It was, like I said, a little under 18.5 last year, just under 8,000 for 2007. When I was saying 1,200, 1,300 for 2006, and then I said about 120 for the prior 2 years. So in a good market, we're really looking at about 10 per month. This year we had 1 month that was over 2,000. In August we had over 2,100 just for that month alone. So that's driving the market. And until all those flush out of the market and get purchased and that inventory reduced, we're going to see the impact on the real estate market. I passed out some things to you. One was my brochure, and I always tell people the most important thing about this brochure is it's got some good information here, but the website address is the most important thing because my website is up to date, has all our forms, has all the property tax laws in there, has all of our phone numbers, contacts. It is a great resource. As a matter of fact, we won an award for it in 2001 by our National Association for Public Information. And the goal of having a good website is that it helps me disseminate information to you where you can get it from your office or from your home and not have to come out to the assessor's office. Even though we moved and we have a location now where there's free public parking, you don't have to come to the office unless you're absolutely necessary for you. So that's been my goal, is to use technology wherever we could so that we can get information to you without having to come into our office or call the office. Although last year, because of this declining market, we had over 120,000 calls last year alone. See, one of the things I wanted to tell you about was, as you see prospective buyers out there or people who are buying, because of this market, it's very unique for them as far as how they're going to be paying their property taxes. If they have an impound account, traditionally it's based on the prior owner's property value.